Can you hear us or see
No,
us?
we are not actually live, babe. Oh, there
Yeah,
we are. Now we are.
No, it's not a now we are. We always were.
Look, no. David probably decided to update his computer 2 minutes before our live stream again. They don't see or hear us.
It says we're live and
Because we just went live. The whole time it said going live. I told you we weren't actually live. We were talking to ourselves.
I pressed
Look, no, we are now here. Huzzah. We are
I pressed
now
the
live.
button.
You left the page before it went live, didn't you?
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. On YouTube, it's very finicky.
It's a web page. It should do things on its own.
No. Okay. So, y'all, we've been here for 5 minutes just talking to ourselves. And David didn't believe me because I kept saying, I don't think we're live. And he's like, I pushed the button.
I did.
We're glad to be here, finally.
Unbelievable.
All
right.
I think so, Miles. I think it was far too gingerly of a brush to have actually pushed the button. Oh my goodness.
I hardcore press that button. Okay.
Oh, good times. Magpie's right. Gotta get better at those button pushing. Button pushing. Did you hear that? Button pushing.
Button.
I mixed up my vowels there. I gotta get better at those. Wait, Mateus is here?
Yeah.
Yay! Because Mateus didn't think that Wi-Fi was gonna work out this week. So yay! However long you're able to actually stay live. And so, woo! All right. David is doing some math to figure out which option won the poll. In the meantime, I'm going to walk us through the I said updates, but what I really meant was through the options was the word I intended. Exactly, Jonathan.
I do have the result.
David has the result before I made it. So really, we had decided on a sound change, but we had to decide where it was going to happen because we had decided that these vowels were going to shift before an L. Go for it. But specifically when that L was a coda consonant. And so we had to decide when would these shift relevant to some other sound changes, including the diphthong rule that would actually change some of the vowels before it got changed again. And also before the L, the labialized L went to W, although that one I think ended up not mattering as much because things. So first and foremost, we had said, well, if it happens after, that was one option where you could see where the effects would take place, and it would only take place, of course, when there was a proto-L. It would never take place when there was a proto-labialized L if we push this vowel change to happen after. If we had this vowel change...
Oh, and then it shows all of the diphthongs. Essentially, they all went back.
Oh, yeah, that was super interesting.
Yeah, except for like a long oo and then an ou. But a lot of them just like ended up changing right back, which is weird.
So like bel went to bel again. And so, yeah, a lot of these ended up being exactly what they were in the proto-form, except, like David had said, like the bool would end up going to bual at the end of the stage, and the boul would end up becoming bowl at the end of it. And so, yeah, so that was one option. Another option was to actually have this vowel shift in between the diphthong rule and the labialized L shift. In which case, notice here we have some of the diphthongs again, just going right back to normal.
Yeah.
But did anything happen in here?
Well, it's just like A, but times 2, basically. So before, it was only happening before regular L coda, not LW. This time it happens before both. So we still have the diphthongs going back to what they were, except for a couple. But now it also happens before proto-labialized L. because the sound change happened before that thing
Mm.
was gotten rid of. By the way, for those who looked at the poll the first time, I made a mistake because I forgot what happened to LW at the end of a word. Because we have a sound change that takes all LW and turns it to W. But that sound change occurs after LW as a coda, the W comes down. So that was my mistake, and I'd written up all the examples. They were wrong. This one's fine.
Whew. All right, and if we put the sound change before the diphthong shift, then things get interesting.
Yeah.
And so some of them end up back at their protoform, but most of them do not. We're going to get a lot more schwas in this version. A lot more diphthongs ending in schwas, I believe, is the big thing.
Yeah, actually, none of them end up back at their protoform. This was an E, not a schwa.
It sure is. Look at me just upside downing that E.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the key here was that there is no key here, is there?
Well, here it's that the O and the A drop to O and E.
Oh, right,
and then
right,
they
right.
both push to schwa when they polarize instead of U and E,
Yeah.
respectively.
Sorry. So to see how interesting this is, you have to put something that in front of not an L, essentially. So BOED, for example, will end up being Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
BOEL is Boel, because there's essentially, it's kind of like the our sarcasm. We had a mid-vowel split, where essentially we had a difference between A and E and O and A. And then what happened is that the A and O rose to E and U, whereas the E and O lowered. And so that's what's happening here. The E and O lower to schwa, whereas A and O raise to E and U as a result of that diphthong polarization.
Yeah.
So that was what this one was interesting for.
And so, David,
Yes.
those are our three options. It's going to take place relative to one of these rules. And what were our results?
Well, in dead last with about like 3 or 4 votes was A. And
Sounds
so that
about
was
right.
just throwing it at the end, and basically it was a very minimal change. It would have been only when a word ended with velar L and not labialized velar L. And I'm glad this one lost because it felt a little unnatural, because the part that was dragging the vowel down was the LE part, not the labial or non-labial part. It would have been very strange if, L was dragging things down, but the even darker labialized L was not. So, but it's something that could have been done anyway. So,
So that one's out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a nightmare because, like, basically what you would have been saying is that everybody was pronouncing it fine for a while. And then at the point where they decided, you know what, this is a little difficult, the LW had already gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you'd be saying. It's just that it's just that it's harder to believe that if there was going to be a problem with it, that it wouldn't crop up first. It wouldn't crop up earlier. All right. So then we have these two, the in-between and the before. Basically, the before is saying the problems crop up with this very early on. B is saying it happens somewhere in between. And you can see the difference in effect. With B, you have it's like, the diphthongs start this way, then they go to this way, then they go back to what they were most of the time. But then with C, we have kind of a consistent change, a consistent and aggressive change. And tabulating the votes at the 11th hour, B and C are exactly tied.
They are.
Yeah.
Whoa. So David had mentioned that maybe what had happened, but he he thought there was one slight winner, but after doing the math, there was not.
Yeah, it was it was a matter of doing the percentages for the confidant poll, which always is going to have more votes. It's always going to have the most votes, unless people are being strange. So, like, because there were 10 votes for the conspirator poll, where B had a slim lead, but there the percentages are easy. You have 50% of 10 votes, that's 5 votes, right? So there was a 1 vote lead in that one. And it was just determining, what is 48% of 21 and 43% of 21. And so, yeah, C has a 1 vote lead there. It was tied in the consultant poll. And so, yeah, we have a tie. And so what do we do in the event of a tie?
Well, normally then we vote.
That's right.
But I don't, just second. Like, I just assumed the patrons would decide this for us, and that I wouldn't have to think about it.
That volt was an accident tincture. That was an accident.
I do like, though, the thought that you would always volt. I volted.
Don't forget to volt.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right, Jolcy, so what do you think?
You can't do it because it's not Josie. If my name were Josie, then I would believe the Jolcy.
Okay, Jessel.
It needs to be an O with a coda. That's how I've decided this works for you.
Well, it's just the long version of your name. Jesse is a short version, and Jesselthy is the long version.
Jesselthy?
Yeah.
Okay. So. One... Oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure this was just a typo that I caught just now. Like, that should never have been there, right?
Yes, that should not have been there.
Okay, like that should just be
an
the
LW.
LW.
Yeah, that
okay.
was a reflex of the older.
I was just suddenly looking at that going, oh my god, do we like bring it back? Yeah. Okay, but yeah, that was because we forgot.
Yep.
Things happened.
Very charitable of you to say we.
Another thing I want to point out is that, like, we need to share that picture of just the Redbird logo, because the way this looks, it looks like the I is dotted too far up because there's that capital L, but it's tiny. But David took a picture of this restaurant logo where, like, the dot on the I has flown away from the rest of the word.
We can go to the website. Their branding is consistent, but if you don't have a preference here,
I'm struggling. I really am struggling because I think no, I don't know. What is your preference, David?
I don't like this. I don't like how it goes from a diphthong pronounced one way to another way back to the same way.
And so let's go see.
That's what
Okay.
That's what I see.
I can get on board. That's what you see. I can get on board with that.
All right.
Oh, Marion. I would not. Blue Dream came to my door. I don't know what that is. But grid and calligraphy paper were on sale. Yes. Anytime there's... Goodness. David can't trust me alone in an art supply store. He found that out.
All right. So, C it is. I say go to redbird.la.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Oh, look. There it is.
Okay. There it is.
Here it is.
So...
with the little dot of the I being like a bird.
It's like, can you possibly zoom in and make it bigger? Is that possible?
It should be, but one moment while I attempt. No, it's not that way. Sometimes it... Here we go.
Is it? Yeah, it's getting bigger. All right.
I have to remember how many times I did that, so we're going to have to undo it.
Are we? I thought it would be only for this one. Yeah.
It is. Oh, nice.
Okay, so let's examine this. First of all, the stick of the B is longer than the stick of the D.
Okay, so this is what he's referring to.
And
this
so
difference.
and so look at this lowercase I and look at where that dot is.
Woo!
So we saw this on a menu, and at first I thought it was like a piece of like pepper or something.
I thought it was a misplaced bullet from the bullet separators from
Yeah.
the top of the menu.
Uh-huh. It's definitely the largest distance between the dot of the I and the I have ever seen in my life. Naturally, I already showed this to Carl and Barry Garcia, because I had to show them immediately. I showed them last night.
Also, the capital R is smaller than either the D or the B, which are different heights.
Ooh, how about that? Anyway.
But it is consistent because look, this D is the same height as that D.
Yes, it is. So anyway, so our wonder was like, what would happen if this was a full font? Would there just be enormous space between each line? Or would you consistently have like little dots showing up
in the middle of your letters? Good
from,
question.
From the line below.
I feel like there'd be extra space. I feel like they would grant that because there's a character we're not thinking of yet that's going to also be that tall. It's one of the other ascenders.
Mm-hmm.
That
ascender, got it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Ascender, you got what I meant. I pushed the button. Peterson is over here being smart. Okay, so yeah, I feel like there's a taller letter that we don't know about yet because we just haven't seen it in the font. Like the capital J is that tall or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to wonder what the lowercase j would be like. My feeling is that they designed this typeface for the logo and for nothing else. And so there isn't even a full font.
I bet not.
That's my guess. But I mean, if it were, one wonders about the lowercase j. And if you want to expand this to the full font, think about all the words with diareses. U umlaut, a umlaut, o umlaut.
Oh my God, the little umlauts would be way up there. But I do appreciate, like, somebody mentioned, there we go, Jonathan was like, if it were actually a bird flying away, that would be really cute. And I agree, it really should be.
I like
Dynonid hit it, like, just nailed it. That's perfect. Maybe that is. Maybe this is actually 2 lines, and that's a period from the top line, and that's the I, and they actually don't have a dot over any of their lowercase letters.
That would be hilarious. Yeah, it says it's a pretty ugly E. It's got an underbite.
Listen.
Look, as somebody who grew up with an underbite. We're beautiful too.
Yes, you are. Love that smile. They may not have a handle on all the font principles that someone who pays attention to orthography could want and typography could want, but will say they know how to cook.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy, do they!
They know how to cook.
Yeah.
David and I did not go hungry.
No.
That was code for we both ate far too much. But anyway, yes. All right.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so then you can
scroll back out. Okay.
Close that.
I know it doesn't actually matter, but like okay. that was me being me.
Keep it on Lexergy. So something that happened, by the way, in between this episode and last is when, and I don't remember who it was who pointed out the error. It might have been Jake. That would be quite likely.
It was Jake.
It was Jake. Yeah.
Jake, sorry.
Yeah.
Our one who keeps us on point. I love it.
Are they sponsoring CopyCon? Oh, they're catering it, of course.
Oh.
They're doing it for free because we're just so illustrious.
Because you can help them redesign their logo.
That's right. Yeah, when Jake spotted the error, let me go over, where's the dog language?
By the way, now I'm imagining the apostrophe being way up there. Like in the Redbird font.
Oh.
Where it's like, you know, anything with an apostrophe, and it's like you see the line, and then the apostrophe is like doo doo way up there. Oh my God, that's great.
Oh, they have an entire little party. That's the VIP section. The acute and grave accents go up there too, and
it's called the party line.
Ooh,
yeah, we're bringing back party lines, but giving it a new definition. I love it.
Oh man! All right, so when the error was pointed out, we realized what the issue was, and it was a sound change. that kind of basically obviated all of the issues. It was coda simplification. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the error where I thought like LW was going to W and it wasn't, because labialized consonants at the end of a word, the labialization was vocalized essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the rule that I was forgetting about. But because when we realized what that rule was, it basically kind of like messed up everything else and made it so that like we wouldn't even have a vote, because theoretically, like I think it was that like LWs would never be there or something like that, because they wouldn't be codas. That's right.
Well,
Because once that happened, they wouldn't be codas.
it was that they wouldn't be codas, which they're still not. And so,
Well,
except for like the diphthongs,
well,
yes.
here, wait. Go back to the Patreon. Go to the top 1A. Okay, A. Okay, so basically, it would have rendered everything like A. A was saying, we're treating L and LW differently, and LW will never be a coda. But the problem was with the placement of the sound change as it was, that would have been the same thing with B and C. LW never would have been a coda. So what we did was we moved that sound change. We moved it to directly before sound change 9, and so it would still apply for A, but we could actually have B and C being options that would end up differently. So I can't remember if Graham found out about this and changed it, but what was essentially, I don't know, I think it was sound change 5 is now sound change 8. And then, okay, so now we can go to the document, I think, or back to Lexergy and then to the document.
Goodness, David. Lexergy.
Okay, this is what I want to see. Put in...
Oh, yes. Any descenders would be assigned a wrapper on the dot in that font. So true.
Actually, never mind. Okay, so Lexergy is okay, go to the document. Let's go to our sound changes. All right. And we had initially written the prelateral lowering as sound change 6. But that is now going to move since C1. We're going to put it before diphthong polarization. And it seems to make sense to put it with consonant cluster simplification.
Are you?
Is that written? Did we spell bibliobeerization right? Here, wait.
Well, let's focus on
Sure.
making sure we got this rule where it needed to be.
Okay. I think that prelateral lowering is now going to be rule 5, and I don't think that shouldn't cause any problems.
Because we need it to happen before the diphthong polarization.
Yeah.
And so
now we need to add a little something to diphthong polarization. In fact, the sound vowel is pushing away from the first one.
Do we though? Because, we need to add the e and o, because we don't have those as options as the second vowels.
Yeah.
That's what we need to add.
I mean, I don't know if we want to go so far as to add it.
Or just say like E squiggle line E. Like.
Except that, no.
Those would go the same direction?
No. We're going to do this. There. Oh, right.
Waiting for it to update.
Yeah, I know. There.
Oh, you did not provide that as a bold option?
No.
And Palatino X?
No.
God, David.
Devastating.
Let's talk about some font problems.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. The shame. Okay, so they all pattern the same because we were going to push them to schwas.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Done. Jonathan, what better way to describe a tilde than a squiggle line? I mean,
I think he's actually objecting to the use of the squiggle line, in which case, you, sir, get right out.
So yeah, I do wonder, like, whether Jonathan's response is to the atrociousness of the way the epsilon looks when it's bolded in our font, to the use of a squiggle line in general, or to the use of my term squiggle line for the more technical term tilde. And I believe they may be referring to my use of the term squiggle line based on their follow-up response.
Okay. Oh, really? Oh no, he wasn't. He wasn't objecting to my use of the squiggle line. He was objecting to the squiggle line. Oh, no. He wasn't objecting to the squiggle line. He was yeah, no, that is atrocious. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Look, so when I made Palatino X, I didn't actually make it, right? I was just copying and pasting. And the thing is, if you open up the Palatino font, there are a lot more characters in there than actually are used. So there are some that are essentially in a dead area. So all you have to do is copy and paste them into a live area, into their Unicode points, and suddenly they're there. They don't have all of the characters in regular, italic, bold, and bold italic. They only have some of them.
I believe some of the other ones we've run into were Angma. I felt like was problematic. I know we've run into this problem before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a problem. I'm sure David will fix it someday.
Yeah, and I still don't know how to describe this sound change.
Which one?
This prelateral lowing. I just have the etc. in there. It's really embarrassing.
Well, let's just continue to be embarrassed. I believe.
Yeah.
We're good here, right? We got our sound changes where they need to be.
Yeah.
And we're good until we run into another problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of schwas that we're going to have to do something with, but, yeah, we're good.
Was that something we needed to address now, or something that you just, like, you could wait to address as we're, like, creating words and seeing them come together?
Down the line. Essentially, what we're looking at is potentially, like that, is potentially having schwa in our romanization.
With the backwards E.
Mm-hmm.
That could be fun. We could figure it out.
Yeah, it feels like an important sound to the dogs, so.
Okay, so
let's go back to where
we'll
we
get
were
there.
working.
We'll get there. I do want to remember. Say I can't remember. Yeah, here we go. We were coming up with words last time, very surely, steadily and slowly.
Right.
But Jake pointed out that dog could be a word in our language, or dog, and it could become, it would just be dogo, right?
Oh yeah, D-O-G, but
labialized. And so we could end up having dogo mean something. And so jokingly, people were like, it could be the first person pronoun. But like, for real, we need to make it mean something because that's just cute.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am on board with creating a meaning for dogo. So ready for such things. And so our protoform. I forget. Oh my. Did you see it? There we go.
Oh man.
Sorry, did I just take over your screen?
Momentarily.
I really did not mean to. Problem. We do need to create a special LangTime user. For this.
We
so
need
that
to
way
create
it won't be
a
ours.
third one. This is David LangTime, and now we need to create Jesse LangTime. Basically, a different one based on who is going to be the one mostly on the screen.
I feel like, though, if we just have a generic LangTime. Oh, wait, no, it does have to be on like some Apple
Yeah.
account to open up our documents, huh?
And so then it'll be opposite, and we can also have different scrolling options.
Mm.
And the only reason not to do it is we experienced problems with the computer slowing down and things like that, and we don't know if it's connected to the creation of a second user. But
also,
it's worth it.
Now we could switch back to just using mine, right? Wasn't the whole reason we created this so that way?
Oh, well, yeah, but I mean, also we have the lovely background with Jonathan's picture.
Right, but I could make that one of my desktop backgrounds. Because you can add desktops. So I could just have
Just
like desktop
make it one
number
of your
4.
desktop backgrounds be your LangTime.
Yeah.
You will have to shut everything else off.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But
all right.
like,
we've got this.
I think that could save us some headaches because right now it legit takes us an hour to set up for stream as I switch users and get the computer ready for somebody new.
Yeah.
And then I would be my own user in Pages and I wouldn't take over your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And so all good things. Now, that has nothing to do with this. Jake, I believe, is suggesting name as a meaning.
Oh my God!
Oh, bone lengths and widths.
What?
Whoa. Miles is saying if these puppers are like Cubone, they could have different distinctions of bone lengths and widths. Okay, go on.
Wait, what?
We can go into that in a second, but why did you say whoa?
Because I thought it was really cool for a word for name.
Okay, we can do that. Name or label.
Yeah, but I want to know more about Cubone. Like, can you please go into the lore of this, Miles? I know all about Cubone and the sad story of Cubone being that Cubone wears the skull of his mother and uses her femur as a weapon. But what's this about distinctions between lengths and widths? And
but,
like with what? Like we also distinguish bones that are longer.
If, however, certain bones could be used for weapons versus their bones for snacking, you might distinguish between like it's not just a bone, it's this kind of bone versus that kind of bone.
Yeah. Oh, Julian, if you haven't gone into Pokémon lore, there is some dark stuff in there.
And it is rather morbid. That's right. However, I did like name.
Yeah.
Boom. So that seems really nice. A nice little thing to put in there.
Yeah, it could also refer to. It could refer to any number of things, but I'm sorry, the name train has left the station.
I know, Jonathan, right? It is beautiful art. Mm-hmm. It makes us happy. And in case anybody doesn't know, if you're watching and you don't know, Jonathan is the one that created our backdrop that we love so much and that used to be physically hanging behind us before we had to switch office spaces.
Yeah, it's still up there.
Oh yeah, it's still on our wall and we love it. It's just like it doesn't fit behind us in this particular physical space. Marion, you're right. It is conceptually versatile. So many words are. Okay, Miles is saying a femur is different from like a tarsal. Could be two roots, one for long bones versus one for shorter, squattier bones.
Okay, yeah, but like you're ducking the issue. Like I don't understand what you're talking about with Cubone. Like, and I don't understand how this is different from us because we also distinguish between different bones. That doesn't make.
But not in our basic roots. In our basic roots, we do not. It's a bone.
But Cubone doesn't have a language. Cubone just says Cubone. Cubone.
Okay, I don't think Miles was ever suggesting that Cubone has a language. I believe it was more of a suggestion of like if they had the mentality or attitude, perhaps there would be some distinction for bone types based on uses and or like salience or importance to certain events.
That's fine, but let us be clear. Miles is suggesting that Cubone, it's singular and plural, distinguish between sizes of bones in some way that we don't. And I want to know what this is based on. I want to know the textual source of this.
David's
I
on a
don't
rant.
buy it. I want to see the citations.
Okay. Shall we continue on with something else?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I wonder what's the closest we can get to Q.
Well, I mean, we have k, so we could get cool, we could get cool, but we cannot get Q.
What happens to EU as a diphthong?
I don't know.
Here,
it's easier
I'll tell
for you to find than me.
Tis.
And so those are options. We have a B, we have an O, and we have an M. So it could be something like ku and then bom,
Cool.
but it would not be one root because we have decided that our roots are going to be relatively
by the way,
one syllable.
Nothing happens to EU as a diphthong.
So it would just be Q.
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 But we do have palatalization.
Okay, so Miles is pointing out something really good point here. No lore, nothing like that. Just didn't know if these specific dogs would have like bone proclivities and are like a warrior class for like gameplay. And so if they're going to be in the game, like using bones for very different things in gameplay, they may have completely different roots.
All right. I'm really sorry. I just thought you were...
Point.
It wasn't just that you were introducing lore about Pokemon. It was that it was just an entirely... This concept just blew my mind that Cubone have like some metric of measuring bones that's different from humans. And importantly so. And not only that, that has an impact on language where Pokemon canonically do not have language. Except for Rotom and Meowth. They're the only ones that can talk, and Mewtwo. Right? Are there any others? Am I missing any of them? Sorry.
You look at me, I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
I would argue that all the psychic ones can somehow talk. We just can't hear their language.
Arnite Petrichor is suggesting Ghastly can talk. That's not been my experience, at least not from the anime. Yeah. There were two Meowth that could talk. There was a girl Meowth that could talk, and Meowth was like, wow, maybe this is my soulmate. And he just fell in love, but like she just didn't want to have anything to do with him.
I could see why. It's a little snotty at times, and I'm not sure I'd hitch my wagon to that Meowth either.
He's got a nose for business.
Okay, if that's all you're looking for. Magpie says that Latias and Latios may shapeshift at some point into humans. And there's an episode where a Ghastly was pretending to be the ghost of someone and could talk.
Really? Huh. Well, how about that?
Jonathan. Nice. All right.
So we do have palatalization. So actually, K, E, U is going to become Q.
Okay.
So, it's just down the line.
Well, we can have Q and we can have BOM, and that could be two completely separate different words.
Yeah.
And so are these, like, do you just want to do it here and make them into something?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I can add it to our list of little roots here. So K-A-U becomes Q.
Yeah, and then there should be aspiration.
Of course there should be. And we would write it like that, right?
Eventually, yeah.
We have not been using any romanization yet, so I'm going to stick with that. And then BOM would just remain, right? Like that doesn't, nothing happens to BOM. I'm going to run that through Lexergy just in case.
Doesn't it go to C? That's what. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
throw it in there.
K-H-A-U. Q.
Q.
There's no ya.
No, there isn't.
It just
It
palatalizes.
absorbs. Yeah, that's right.
There we go. Thank you for that
Yep.
little
Thank
reminder.
you, Jonathan. Okay. Right.
Well, boom does nothing really, but if we did do boom,
It would also.
it would just do boom. So okay, boom, boom.
But no, this is it is an old opinion that English doesn't have pure long vowels. We do boom. It's not boom.
Oh, mine is not pure. I've put mine into phonetic software, and it is. I am a diphthongizer through and through, of A and O, to the point where when I speak Spanish, you can tell. You can tell.
Como estás?
You're being silly. I'm talking about the A and the O.
Okay.
I struggle in context keeping A and O pure.
Hold on. I bet. How about this one? Estación. Try that. It's just station.
Estación.
All right. I will contend that when there's a coda, it's probably not a diphthong.
In English, it is, because I've recorded myself and seen it with words like gate and things like that. Like, I have to really think. If I want to keep it as gate, I have to really think about it. Otherwise, it's gate.
It's like, just so short for me that one doesn't have a chance. Gate.
Well, you also grew up with Spanish.
I guess I did. All right.
You grew up with those nice pure monophthongs. I did not, and I off-glide.
By the way, is that useful for learning any other language? Is there any other language that's so, like, kind of messy like that? I'm thinking Danish.
Off-glidey?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Because I'll have to record myself saying David to see if I get a pure A and Day.
Hey, wait. Jake, you're British. David. Where do they get off pronouncing it David Villa? That's not how you say David in British English.
I can start calling you David.
It's only that dude, this famous soccer player, and he's Spanish.
Is it because they hear David and like...
Then they've changed both the vowels and changed the stress, which I don't understand.
Oh my gosh. Some Korean dialects and Danish. Okay, so maybe I can pronounce those better because of my weirdness.
All right. So the point was we needed some words in order to test things to get to grammar, which is below. And we do need to remember to actually come up with meanings for Q and bone.
These are we wanted to have mutations. These were our possibilities.
Yeah, and so and we'll need to figure out the phonology of the palatal, intervocalic, and nasal mutations. Though I think we've got the palatal figured out.
If I could pronounce Danish really well, yes, I would be super proud of that. Almost as proud as if I could actually get all the Dutch diphthongs. If I could actually do all those, do you even understand?
Oh, man.
I would be like, I would give myself a certificate. I would print myself and frame a Dutch diphthong certificate if I, like...
And this isn't even, like, being able to speak the language.
No. And also, not speaking to somebody who is a native Dutch speaker who is just very nice and going to be appreciative of the fact that I'm really trying. No. I mean, like... A speaker of Dutch who is like, I'm so persnickety about these diphthongs that I'm gonna let you know every mistake you make. If they say I nailed it, at that point I will make myself a certificate that I will frame and hang on my wall.
That would be so cool.
In the meantime, I will continue trying. Trying being the key word. The Dutch R. That's a whole different certificate that I gotta earn. Yes, Mateus. So we're gonna work on this. We're gonna work. And when I get Mateus's thumbs up, that's how I know.
Okay, so okay. We gotta like figure out a bunch of things. So like one is like I think we're pretty satisfied with like accusative, lative, or something, genitive, and then locative, essive, something like that. We need to figure out which of the mutations is going to apply to which one. Like start with one of them, probably the accusative one. Figure out which one that is going to be, and then figure out a source for it. Because I know that I suggested bark, but I don't think anybody was really happy with that.
I liked it. I wasn't sure that it felt accusative. Um, accusative in the sense that it would mark the object. Because if we used bark in the sense that David had suggested, something like the dog chased the cat would have been grammaticalized, where like bark cat is like the object of chasing. And David's reasoning for that was solid because it's thinking about like a dog's point of view, and like if you bark, you enact something or you make it happen. I thought bark would be a better causative marker.
Yeah.
And so where like you actually could have like some sort of causative auxiliary, where something like bark chase would mean like I made you chase.
Yeah, I think that's good too. So
okay, so possibilities, bark, causative, auxiliary. So that I think would be really cool. So like I wanted to use it. I loved the idea of using it as some sort of grammatical marker. I just felt that would be potentially better.
That's fine, but like so
thinking about what would mark an object.
Sorry. Decide how the mutations will be realized. Palatal, intervocalic, nasal. And we can cross one of those out. Is there an easy way to do strike through? It doesn't even have a keystroke.
It's over here.
Ah, got it. On the meanings of the three main prepositions, decide on the sources of the three main prepositions. Assign a phonetic form and thereby mutation to the three main prepositions. That's what we have to do in some sort of order.
Quick question, why'd you cross through palatal?
Because we've done that one. We've already decided how palatal mutation is going to work.
Is going to be realized. We haven't decided which of these are going to be associated with palatal, because that will just be the form.
Yep.
We'll make it happen. Okay. I was like, we haven't made anything that would mutate in terms of preposition. Okay. Miles is pointing out that a well-trained dog is known to sit. And of course, well, yeah, you're right. There are a lot of different kinds of barks, but I feel like those would end up being different communication verbs than necessarily a host of grammatical markers.
Let's decide on one that we're going to decide on right now. 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Well, I mean, I guess we have to know how they're going to show up so we know what protoforms they're going to end up needing to be. Because we could end up like actually creating protoforms.
Which one of those was that?
One. Because don't we have to figure out how we're going to make intervocalic things happen so we know what the protoform has to...
All right, so we're gonna do the phonetics right now?
Does that make sense?
It's your show. I just want to focus us.
does that happen? Because we obviously have to do one before we can do three. Meanings and sources kind of overlap.
Not necessarily. Sources has two parts. Because there's the meaning is grammatical meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And the lexical sources. Okay. And then this is assign a phonetic form to the three main sources. This is meaning.
So I don't understand how a meaning is that distinct from a lexical source. Those two, in my mind, have to be done together. So it's like if we do one, we have to do the other.
Grammatical meaning is accusative. Lexical source is something like hit. Phonetic form is, you know, HIT.
Sure. But, like, didn't we already decide?
We have to do that. This was a suggestion. So do you want to start with two?
Okay. Well, when you number things, I want to start with one, because when you number things, that's where I want to start. So, like, I'm up on one. Let's go ahead and decide how the phonetic mutations will work, and then let's move on. That doesn't help. It's in alphabetical order.
All right.
Oh my goodness, David. This whole time you could be using image bullets, and this is what you go with. We could be doing custom image bullets, and this is where your brain takes you.
All right. I gotcha.
As you're doing that, I'll skip over. I can't believe you're not finding some animal drawing, but we'll go.
They're not in there.
You have to go to image bullets and then custom.
Well, yeah, but then I don't like have anything that's ready, especially not for dogs.
What I always do is go to our shared emoji folder. But anyway, this is besides the point. If we talk about the grammatical meanings, we had said the grammatical meanings would be, we would have three main ones, and then all others will be built off it?
Yes.
And when you say that, does this mean we'll have like compound prepositions essentially, where it's like this followed by this becomes some other preposition meaning? Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that right. I liked this because I thought accusative, you had said, would also give us like essentially those kind of like the lot of readings.
Well, there was a suggestion. I didn't know if you liked it or not.
And then we had said that the locative could be used for like a dative interpretation as well.
Locative?
I thought so.
No, I think accusative.
So we would have two marked for accusative for dative if we had like a recipient and an object being given?
Well, usually if there's an association with locative, then it's like from A to B, which is a usual path of, you know, grammaticalization for dative.
So if we had give as our verb, or, you know, something like that, that usually has two objects, or that may have two objects. It doesn't have to. We could say it has to be marked in some other special way. If it has two objects, though, we would use accusative for both, or we would use accusative for the recipient and then mark the object being gifted as something else.
Yeah, it could be either.
Okay. Um, okay. Yeah, there's a bird flying outside. I'm happy to go with this, mainly because I would really like to move forward unless we have other suggestions.
All right.
So if we have other suggestions, I would love to like talk through them. If we don't, then like I feel like you had a vision for that.
I did. I had a vision.
And I didn't. So like I'm happy to go with it.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let's get
Well, do we want to? You'll remember how they're.
Let's start from this base
Okay.
and forget everything else. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So now this is done. Okay. Now, what should we do next? Lexical source?
Can you? Yeah. I mean, let's just go there.
Or do we want to skip to phonetics?
Well, no. If we're doing phonetics, we need to do the first and the last at the same time. I feel like. So let's just talk about lexical sources.
Okay, so yeah, this is where it's going to get difficult. So obviously I suggested bark for lative. That was the only one I suggested, and you had a better idea for that. So let's set that aside. What are some basic things that dogs do?
That dogs do and that have the that could have the more basic interpretation of point A to point B, right? Like that's what we mean by lative, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. This is one reason why I hate linguistic fancy terminology, because lative means nothing to me. Like I have to every time look it up to be like, what does this actually mean?
Yeah.
I
mean,
and so
honestly, chase. I know that we use chase as our main verb, but
chase does get you from point A to point B. It gets somebody else from point A to point B too. They chase, they run, they get the zoomies.
Yeah.
Gosh,
yeah, they do. I remember when Brandy used to go charging from out the backyard and in through the house and up to the end of the
although
hallway.
that doesn't necessarily get them to a second point. That just may bring them back to the original point.
Yeah. I think chase is the best one because it has an implied object.
Yeah, I agree. So I like chase, which means also, okay, we don't have chase yet, but no. Chase will be what we use as an example verb in our sentences. So when we do come up with forms, we'll want to make sure that we come up with another transitive type verb that we can use in our examples.
Chase does also feel like it has a causative meaning, but if we have bark and bark is our causative, then we can separate that.
And you're just going in order, so now we'll look at essive. Yes. And essive is that locative interpretation where like you're in a place.
Yes, and so for something like this, think about this serially. The dog is sleeping on the grass. Dog, sleep, verb, grass. Could be actually sleep.
It could be sleep. It could be also like stretch, to lie, to sit.
Eating implies staying for a while too, but then that also implies an object, whereas staying or sitting doesn't, or lying.
You know something interesting that we didn't talk about for cats either, but I could imagine situations where they'd be different. When we say the dog is lying down, there are different ways to be lying down, like on their stomach or on their side.
Yeah, you're right.
And like, right. I wonder if they, as animals, like as a human, if you're laying on your stomach versus your back, really it doesn't matter as much. It just depends on what you're like used to or what you prefer, right? But like I wonder if dogs like feel differently about like they tend to be more alert when they're lying on their stomachs.
Yeah.
They are passed out when they're lying on
Yeah,
their
it's
sides.
done.
Um, or when they're curled up, you know, like kind of all
Mm-hmm.
twisted up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of interesting because it's like if they're going to be awake, chances are they're lying on their stomachs.
Yeah, and it's like, especially for in my experience, if a dog feels like, you know what, there's a possibility that something fun might happen,
Mm-hmm.
but I waited here wagging my tail and nothing's happening, so I'm just gonna lie on my stomach for a bit. But it's like, if something's on,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, like, yeah, when they're curled up or when they're on their side, I think they take some coaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking like you're in that position, to me that would be like you're lying on your side, like you're not going anywhere. And so yeah. So sitting as lows versus sitting upright. Yeah, it's like they have because you know obviously cats and dogs both can like be sitting with their front legs extended versus sitting lying where they're, you know, on their stomachs, all legs kind of on the floor versus lying down. So fascinating. Oh yeah, splooting is also yeah, that is also a thing. If we had squirrel language, we would definitely have splooting as the essive. It's giving me ideas. Okay, so I like all of those. Are you feeling any of those? We could, if we like several of them, we could put a little poll up.
Yeah, I think that we should take a note that we are going to distinguish types of lying. So just so we have that, even if we only end up with one.
Oh, and Marion had said to guard, I think was another one. Yeah. If I missed anything, I'm really sorry.
No, a dog can't be a Kimbo. I suppose our dogs can be.
That's true. That's true. We can make them in a lot of ways. Anime fan, that had been my intention.
What?
Time got away from me. The episode guides that I started in season 1, I had planned on continuing that.
You started them. I thought somebody else did them.
No, I did that whole Google document thing.
I thought somebody else was in charge of those.
No, that was me.
Why were you doing that?
Because I wanted people to be able to know where things were, including us. But then life happened, and now it's 5th season, and that we have a lot of episodes I'd have to go back and do. And I don't have time with the other things we're working on.
So I think that our option should be sit, stay.
Oh.
And then, so we're going to distinguish types of lying. Are we going to distinguish lying on the side versus curled up?
Yes, but just a second. I have another idea real quick that I don't want to forget.
Okay.
This is just an idea. It's
okay.
not.
Thank you for writing that
down. Okay, so I wanted to type these out too. What you're saying? So ideas for essive. We have sit, stay. I feel like you said one other before you said lie.
Well, I didn't, but
okay.
The thing is, we know that we're going to distinguish types of lying, but we have option 1, alert lie versus non-alert lie. Option 2, stomach lie, side lie, curl lie. And I feel like we need to decide on that before we go to the essive.
I would be happy doing a poll here, see what people want.
Okay, I'll take charge of that as soon as I find out where it is. Okay, here we go. Floridian, by the way, is absolutely nowhere to be found. He's abandoned us. I also had a dream, by the way, I'm just realizing this.
Did you put up the poll? You're still trying to get in.
No, but I
Okay.
just remembered this.
Okay, I was so confused what was happening.
It was part of a dream. No, but like it was like I figured out something in my head, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. The dream is that Bibluridian and Artifexian are the same person, and like that was just like, you know, not like a sock puppet, but more like, you know, is just a different project, you know. And so like he has his Artifexian project and his Bibluridian project. Yeah. Anyway, so that was all. All right.
I do love that was a thing for you.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Adding poll.
Yeah, Magpie there. Collaborative video is really just Bibluridian jumping between two.
It's just like
things.
me, myself, and Irene. Okay.
Jake is asking, would it be possible to distinguish lying as process versus lying as state? Which I think that could be the alert lying versus non-alert lying is kind of...
That is a tangential question.
Okay. Do you want to add a potential option 3? Marianne has asked, why not an option to include both, where you could have like alert while curled?
No.
Okay. So we have the 2-way distinction of lying down versus the 3-way distinction. Where David was teaching people how to make card houses while I pelted people with paper airplanes. Yes. Please tell me that I was specifically pelting the people trying to follow David's instructions on making card houses. And I was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Just like paper airplane after paper airplane.
Did you knock down any of the card houses?
Oh my God, this is amazing. That makes me so happy. I need to up my paper airplane making skills, because right now anyone I pelted would end up being an accident. There we go. One more event.
That's right.
And if I actually hit anyone I aim for, then that will be another like certification moment of my life. Specifically with the paper airplane. Every once in a while I actually hit my target with, like, I don't know, throwing a baseball or something. I'll actually, you know, hit the glove I'm aiming at. But I do remember one disastrous moment in class where this marker for the board had like just, you know, died, and somebody previously had used the classroom and just left the marker there, and I was like, well, I need to throw this away. And the students were like, just throw it. We bet you can make it in the trash can, which is across the room. And so I was like, all right, I got this. And I like whipped the marker. I hit a student.
And that was the end of your teaching.
Luckily, the student had a very good attitude about it. I felt awful because like the student was not even directly in line between me and the trash can. It'd be one thing if like I just fell short and the marker just like hit the student in front of the trash can, but no, it was like trash can here, student here. I hit the student.
Man.
Woo. Making the card houses.
Oh, wow.
And I was hiding behind the podium, like secret attack. Yes. And I just love to think of this podium filled with paper airplanes just ready. Got my arsenal.
Well, the thing is,
this is amazing.
What better way to learn how to make a card house than if you are afraid that somebody's going to knock it down? I mean, you don't mess around. And man, I wish Copicon was in London. He's found another good restaurant.
I think we have our answer.
Yeah, like we have so many more viewers. Like nobody cares about this question, I think, than we have so many more viewers than votes.
It's not so many more, and it's not enough that if everybody else suddenly voted, you could turn the tide. It's not enough.
We'll end it. All right, so we have a 3-way distinction. So that is good. So then let's delete that. Okay, now I'm going to add or belly lie.
Yeah.
Well, we can only have 4 options in the poll.
Yeah, we can only have 4. So did you want to have 2 different kinds of lying be ideas for the essive, or did you have another one that you wanted? Okay.
I don't think they would use the side lying. That's just like too much.
One reason why I would not necessarily think the side lie would be the essive, because on the one hand, it's like you're kind of planted there and you're like planning on staying there.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that most things that they would want to say are essive, that are just there, they would see in more of a standing position or upright position than they would in a lying down on your side position. And both curling and belly lying involve kind of an uprightness that would metaphorically map onto the physical world, I think, a little bit better than side lying would be. And so that's my reason there. Jake, am I reading this correctly?
Yeah.
Your friends are winching you as your pronoun?
They can't just do that.
It's not like they said this. Winch said this. Huh. I would not feel great about that development unless you and your friends had this code whereby being called a winch was like a super term of endearment, which it could be, and no judgments if it is. But if it's not, it would just feel weird to me to be winched. Like, of all words, that was your choice. Fascinating. It's a bit of an in-joke. Okay, I get that. So, like, if it's something where it's like it tickles your entire group, like that totally makes more sense. But yeah. Oh, it's totally archaic, except for like I feel like at Renaissance festivals you have the winches.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't really think we have winches.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, Anime Fan, were you asking about card houses, like what they were?
Oh yeah, you make houses out of playing cards. You stack them up.
And now I'm laughing at Jonathan's comment. Sorry, I was not laughing at David's response to what card houses are. He is correct that card houses are, like playing cards stacked in formations. They don't have to look like houses at all. Like if you could just stack cards in any which way, like it's sort of a card house.
Castles.
A lot of them do end up being more castle-y or fort-like, pyramid-like.
Yeah, I think we got it.
But Jonathan's comment that cracks me up. Yes, in my accent, I'm sure that. Just a second, I have to really concentrate. I know it came out as that I vowel because that's how I say it. I don't distinguish between wench and winch. Oh my god, wench.
Wench.
I feel like you're just saying winch.
No, wench, and then winch, as in Winchell's Donuts.
Which is not a thing beyond Southern California, so
apparently.
Anyway.
Another thing I assumed was national, that was just regional.
Ooh. All right, so we have 38% belly lie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're pretty good there.
And now ideas for genitive.
And so now I am really, really excited about this idea that you have.
With to heal.
Yeah.
I got confused by the comment momentarily.
Okay, but that time I said wanch? Who said wanch?
I may have. I don't know. You never know what's going to come out of my vowel space.
Wanch Dwessing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, so we're going to leave this note here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and just delete that because we've already done it. And so, yeah, do you like this idea? So the reason I was thinking of like to heal, it's a term that we could change like semantically how we want to define it from the dog's point of view. But that idea of like you're right there following with whatever person there is. And so it's like if you're healing that person, not with an A, but with an E, if you're healing, you heal. God, is
Oh,
that can we ing that verb? We have to be able to.
hang on. So I'm having a little bit of a misunderstanding. What does to heal mean?
Like when you say heel to a dog,
What is
then
that?
they come right by your side and they're right by your side. And like if you move, they're gonna
Oh,
stay right with you and move. And so at some point it kind of becomes this like the genitive idea to me was like you kind of become associated with the thing that you're healing.
so it's like following.
Yes, but like closely, um like usually like when a dog heals, they'll be like right by your side. Like and they like do what you do essentially. So yeah, so that's why like because it would create that close association specifically for inalienable possession, that kind of close association where it's like if it's near you and kind of like near you a lot, it's probably your inalienable possession. Like if that's my hammer and it's close to my side quite often, and it's kind of like it's at my heel. And that's of course where the verb comes from, is your heel. It's at your heel.
Yeah, okay. So now that I get it, because it was really intriguing, because I didn't quite know what it was, but now that I know what it is, it certainly makes a lot of sense. Do we want to consider any other options, or just go with it?
Oh, I'm happy to consider other options. I did not want to forget that idea because we were talking about one thing and I suddenly had that idea for like, we could do this.
Oh, do we have any other options?
Well, I mean, I think there could be other options. Somebody before had mentioned this verb that I think could actually be more genitive than anything else, like to guard. Because chances are, if you're trying to guard something, you kind of view it as your something to guard, whether it's your family that you're guarding or your possession that you're guarding. I think that could be a good one. Stay could be used. I'm curious to know how stay could be genitive, though.
It made a lot of sense in my mind
Okay.
when I thought it up, but it doesn't make as much sense now.
Okay. Marion likes it, so that's good. I'm assuming the heel idea. Yay. That's a good question, Jake. And so it's not that we would have to use that specific word as like the full definition. It's like that's just the best English I could put to the idea I was thinking of. Tabby, I feel like that one is really good, but almost even better for cats. If we were doing that nuzzle, okay, because if you nuzzle something,
Yeah.
okay. But yeah, I could. Now I'm like thinking about how cats, yeah, if you just put something in your mouth and carry it around. Dogs do that. They do that with like their dog toys and things like that. But I
just
don't
get it from one place to another.
Yeah, like I don't really feel like it's necessarily a claiming of an item, so to speak. When dogs think a toy is theirs, they will pull on it.
Yeah.
But that's specific to dog toys.
I'm good with these three. Do you want to?
Oh, the only other one is they do, especially they do mark with urine their territory.
But they wouldn't do that with other dogs.
No, they would not pee on another dog, I don't think.
Yeah.
So I like these options, to heal, to guard, to nuzzle. I think those are good for genitive. Dogs really do lay on things that they don't want other dogs to take. It is really cute. They're like, I wanna lay here, I wanna go to sleep, but you're not taking my ball.
Okay.
Some good stuff. We turned off notifications on this one, right? I mean, it didn't pop up, so I guess we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so curious. Oh my God, this vote is jumping all over the place. So tincture, heel, and chase are two different concepts because dogs are not chasing you if they are heeling. Like they are following, you stop, they stop, versus if they're chasing you, like they're coming after you, right? So like there are very, very different connotations to whether they are like at your heel or they're chasing you. And in general, you'd rather a dog be at your heel than chasing you. Especially if you're worried about and are afraid of dogs. So we haven't gotten there. I don't think we're going to do a different genitive for this language just because of how we're thinking. I think at most we could consider a marked versus an unmarked form, but
there are some outstanding votes, and this thing is very close. We should, you know what we should do? I should have included an option in the poll that says I'm intentionally not voting.
Oh, yeah. Just like C answer kind of thing. And Marion, you're absolutely right. If you're being chased, you stopping and them stopping are not mutual. You stop if they're chasing you, they're still coming after you, versus if they're healing, you stop, they stop. So yeah, very, very different. Yeah, this is really close.
Basically, if you haven't voted, if you could just say in chat that I'm not going to vote.
Kind of want to like take back the poll and add abstain as an option. Oh, what just happened here?
Vote for Nasal. That was the first one. We got an abstain there, an abstention there. It's still got a couple more votes out there.
Okay.
Like I
two
hate
votes.
I just hate.
I don't know. I like this result though. Let's just do. Just kidding.
I mean, it was your idea, and it's nice.
Oh, do you have more than one thing open, Jonathan? That might be it.
It's on 5 different screens, 5 different accounts.
Oh, fair. Okay, so then we're really only one vote off. So yeah. I totally understand.
We'll do it. All right. And then heal. And then this one is done, and I think we've earned a little something.
We have earned a little something.
We've earned it by forcing people to make our decisions for us.
Hey, we made a decision to end that vote.
That's right.
Just fixing his little ear.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Little ear just got squished. Well, I'm not really fixing it, but every time I move the mouse, or little crochet mouse, I just end up pushing it right back into the cat. So
I'll give it some attention after this. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.
Wait, did I miss the definition of what is a white rabbit? I've tucked into another white rabbit. What is that? So I make faces as I open my Copico. Woohoo! Oh, it's a Chinese sweet. Okay. Oh, and no sorries needed, Jonathan. Absolutely fine.
And
Demousecracy.
I think there's an accidental extra T in there. It should be demousecracy, right? But so there's that. That explains the white rabbit, Jake. What explains the tucked in?
That means like to eat, like to Like, oh, I've tucked into my plate. I've tucked into my meal. Like
In our
you
English?
hunker down and you.
Or are you just assuming that from context, or is it something that you would say?
Like, I'm pretty sure I've heard it before.
All right, then.
Jonathan, see what you're doing there. We got mouse and rat.
Oh, I like it. Dogmocracy.
Dogmocracy, yes, in this case.
Copico. Hashtag tuck in. Oh.
No, like I'm pretty sure I've said it before. Like, oh, let's tuck into this pizza or whatever.
Wow.
Like, I feel like I have. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Thank you. Jonathan is saying this is a thing people say. Magpie wouldn't necessarily say it, but is familiar with the phrase. And yeah, Silvertail, tuck in. You eat it.
You'd have a restaurant. Welcome to Dave and Jesse's barbecue. Get tucked.
God. Get tucked could be the name.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have tuck in, spelled with two N's. Like INN.
Oh, the tuck in.
Yes.
Wouldn't have anything to do with food, of course. It would be the traditional sense of tuck in, which has to do with going to sleep.
Why couldn't you have food in bed?
I think it would be very confusing for people.
Yeah, tuck into a good book is another expression.
It's just something that
maybe
you could say.
The ear is just, I just want to be back.
It's a good little mouse.
What sauce base would the barbecue be? The fact that ketchup is an option?
Yeah, like
for me, the sauce base first can't be a dry rub because at that point it's not a sauce base in my head. I would err on the side of vinegar if I were making my own barbecue sauce, but it wouldn't be super vinegary.
Also, I think you should have the option of having, a wet sauce and a dry rub.
Mm-hmm. But I would treat them in my mind very differently, and in the way I cook with them. Bed and breakfast, tuck in and tuck in, otherwise known as tuck in squared.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No.
It would be a baby.
No, I've never heard of Bush Tucker. Sounds like a person.
Yeah, I don't know Bush Tucker. Yeah, it sounds like just like, oh, he was my neighbor growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Bush Tucker.
All right, so then, here we go. We've done our palatal. We know what happens with palatal. Let us tuck into intervocalic mutation. No, let's do nasal. It's easier.
Okay.
All right. I say scroll up to the consonants.
We have one nasal.
Yeah, but this is about what happens to a consonant when it's followed by a nasal.
When it's followed by or preceded by?
Preceded by.
Okay, so specifically our little preposition will come from something ending in a nasal, and we want to know what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have voice stops. We have voiceless stops. We have voiced fricatives and voiceless fricatives. We have an L and an R. And a W.
You just went into your narrative soothing voice. You're about to be the one telling those on the meditative apps. You're the one reading the story that's meant to put you to sleep because it's so calming. You went there with this list of consonants that we have. And now I'm very soothed.
Now we're going to talk about the stops. Our first stop is a voiced bilabial plain stop. Our second stop is a voiced bilabial pharyngalized stop.
Like it, but let's not make it so monotone. A little bit more curvy. just watched a Friends episode where like Joey was trying out for a role and the advice was, "You're horizontal. Let's make it more vertical." So I was trying to figure out how I could like do that as feedback for you.
So, you know, our poll could actually be how exactly these things are going to be realized. And I'm not sure the best place to do this. I kind of want to do it right here, even though it's going to add some, you know, heft. We could do voice stop to nasal, voiceless stop to voiced stop.
Except you, feeler. Unless it became feeler.
And then we have a fricative to stop as one option. And then we allow sequences of MW, MR, and ML.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing would happen there. We have Anything happen there? Probably not.
In our phonotactics. Whoop. Didn't mean to.
Oh, we don't allow sequences of ML. La. We don't. We only allow
We
R.
have R, so mra.
La. What do you think is going to happen there? Nothing? La.
It would either go to an R or it would end up geminating the M, which may end up just being deleted down to a singleton.
I like it going to R.
Okay. And I feel like the W would end up doing the same. So
Right.
essentially, moi. Oh, it could just become a labialized M at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that.
We're going to end up with voiced uvular stops.
Like I said, we're either going to end up with that or the labialness of it and the no equivalent voiced distinction. Would it pull it to a velar?
Well, it is M.
Like
And it could also nasal could assimilate. I don't know.
So the nasal itself assimilates is like totally separate from the list above.
Yes.
Where we could have da, fine. Like ta could become da. But ta could also become anda with an N.
Yes.
Okay. I think this is a prime, like, let's flesh this out and make this the patron vote.
Okay.
Because I foresee a few different options standing out. And having like a part A and a part B of those options.
Yes. Okay.
Like in my head, it's being broken down into two major options. The nasal either assimilates or it doesn't. And so either the M stays M throughout, and then these other things also happen, or the M assimilates, which is going to affect some of what happens potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, we'll do that. Good.
As we're staring at this, what was the intervocalic? Were you thinking like a particular coda consonant, or were you thinking like vowel vowel and there's going to be some sort of insertion that could happen?
So some options are voiceless can become voiced, voiced stops can become voiced fricatives, voiced fricatives can become proximants, proximants can disappear. That's one option, or just stops become fricatives.
As David's typing out some possibilities here, I'm just going to call you Vololo for short. It would be realistic in situations for a following stop to like assimilate and place to the nasal in front of it. That would be absolutely fine. That would be a different direction of assimilation. However, here it wouldn't make as much sense just because we only have one nasal, which means like across the board, all of our stops are suddenly going to be labial. Across the board, all of our fricatives would be labial. And so if we did that kind of assimilation, it would actually kind of destroy the meaning distinctions, which is not something that natural languages and speakers want to do, because at that point, everything sounds the same. And like then you're going to have to change everything again because suddenly it's like you have all the same. But in other languages, you know, say we did have an M, an N, and an ANGMA as like three phonemes in the protoforms, yeah, you could totally see a situation where like the M would pull a T to a P, and an N would pull a P to a T, and so on. So like you could totally see that situation happening in other languages where it would make sense given their proto inventories.
Mm-hmm. I wrote down some ideas for vocalic assimilation.
Okay. Would this only happen in instances of grammaticalization, or are you thinking of wide scale, we're going to introduce a new sound change?
No, only with this preposition.
Okay, okay. And same for nasal assimilation, like, because the palatalization is actually kind of wide scale, right? Like that one, we actually introduced a full sound change that would just end up kind of showing up across boundaries.
Nasal assimilation could be wide, and it would apply to compounds.
Okay.
I suppose this could also apply to compounds.
To distinguish, that would actually help distinguish when two units back to back are meant to be interpreted as two freestanding units versus like these two are meant to work together a bit more closely. I actually really like that. Because then that also gives it like these grammaticalized things are actually kind of being seen as compound light, you know, like they're like pre-compound.
That's a good point.
It is a very good point, Miles.
Yeah, this is going to have to happen. What are our palatal fricatives?
I don't know. I'm going to go look down in our historical notes. Woo, need to go further. Oh, I went too far. I should have gone back up after I hit the charts. We got the here. That's the only one.
Okay, and we don't have a ya. Remaining consonants are unaffected.
Yeah, we've got the voiceless aspirated stop. We've got the voice stop. We've got the voiceless pharyngealized stop and the voiced variant, but then we only have one fricative.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so actually, oh gosh, I should have stayed where I was. When we're talking about the approximants being affected, the W could go one of two ways depending on when this happens, because the W could already be a fricative of a, but it could also end up disappearing if approximants disappear.
Oh, wait. Do we have what at all anymore?
I actually don't think so, but like I feel like it must happen.
See how
Like,
late the W to V change happens.
After vowels, before a round vowel, so it actually doesn't happen across the board.
So what will stay what? Yep. So yeah, we do have W.
But in between vowels, as a coda, it's always going to be a V. And so in this situation where we're assuming there'd be some coda.
Well, it depends where.
Depends. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We already have a precedent here of fortition where V becomes a B after M. And so we already have a fricative to stop precedent for our nasal assimilation. That would be a smart thing to keep. And just apply it across the board.
Why did we do that?
Because I didn't like mba as an onset.
Oh, and so mba becomes so moi, so mu becomes mbu becomes mbu.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Going back up here, having stops go to fricatives, we do need to talk about, are we introducing alveolar fricatives? We could introduce like an S and a Z, which we do not have yet.
Yeah. In fact, as I'm looking at this, I'm wondering if maybe we should just figure out the nasal assimilation and make vocalic assimilation the pull.
Okay.
Because I think that we have a very small number of decisions to make, and you might have a strong opinion about them. So we are going fricative to stop, and voice stop to nasal I think makes a lot of sense. So amba becomes amba.
Okay. We would, in this case, we would end up having a potential, well, it wouldn't really be geminate, would it? It would just be like unit 1 ends in M, unit 2, which used to start with a B, now starts with an M.
Mm-hmm.
Would these two essentially become the same?
Mm-hmm.
Or would we introduce a pharyngealized M?
Introduce pharyngealized M. So like those will all be there. That won't change. But the important questions are whether the nasal itself assimilates. I think it should.
Well, at this point, I feel like it has to. Mm-hmm. Or the unit beginning with a voice stop will just always be an M. which would destroy some meaning distinctions, especially if we're talking about doing this after a preposition. Anything starting with any stop is going to be the same sound. So like we have to let that nasal assimilate.
Okay. And now, uvular. For the uvular sounds, I think there is enough reason to merge them with the velars. It'll be a lot of sounds. It'll be a lot of words that end up getting conflated in this instance, but it's only in this instance.
It's not going to be a lot, I don't feel like.
Well, it's going to be every word that begins with kh, kwa, kha, ra, wa, and kwa.
Because there are fricatives we don't have.
Yeah.
Because the fricatives are going to become stops.
Yeah. Oh, but interestingly enough, they're going to become unaspirated stops. Holy crap. Unless we just want to say they become aspirated to avoid that hornet's nest.
Okay, so I just want to kind of say like, all right, so in my head, we would have like, whoops, some stage one where the nasal assimilation. So like MB fine, but MD becomes ND.
Yep.
And I'm just typing this out to like kind of get woo. And MG is going to become NG. Okay. And I'm only typing out notes. I'm not doing the full thing because I just want to kind of like get this set. So let's say voice stops go to nasals using the same set we just did. MB is going to go to MM.
Yep.
MD will go to ND, which will go to NN.
Yep.
And then we have MG to Ng. Ooh, that was the wrong. Ngma G, which will then go to Ngma. Which means we'll have Ngma consonants again. Voiceless stops go to voiced stops, which now.
Can I finish typing this out though? Because like.
Oh.
Because like, it's the uvular question that's the important one.
Well, I feel like we've hit an important one here. Oh, Jake, we've already made it so I can't say all the things in this language. It's fine. That's what I have Jwadi for. You know what I'm saying?
I also missed this one.
Missed it, or like I said several times, I'm just pulling out examples to make sure I understand what you were saying.
Fair enough.
Because I purposefully only did the voiced examples in that nasal assimilation and things. Exactly, Jake. You get me.
Right.
Go to ND. We go to, yeah.
Well, this is where we already run into a problem.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get some problems here because we don't have a voiceless stop yet.
That
would still be M, yeah.
That's not the issue. Is should it be aspirated or not?
Well, not only should it be aspirated, but like.
Right. That solves that easily.
Oh, sorry. I was saying like there was another question that I had, but now I can't remember what my other question was because I think all the other co-articulations we have available for both voiced and voiceless. Um, well, the h is voiceless, right? And so it would go to the Q. Isn't the question what would the R go to? The upside down R?
No.
Because we're just going to say that goes to a G, to a h. I mean, to a velar.
The reason that it's a question is because the first sound change that we have applying here is nasal assimilation.
Mm.
And so if there is going to be nasal assimilation, then there's going to be a merger. It wouldn't make sense for it to go to a velar after the nasal has already gone to a uvular.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the important question of if you want to merge those uvulars and those velars.
The pharyngeal we're leaving alone and saying the m h
Yeah, I think so.
is just a thing that can happen and we're done.
It could actually just become pharyngalized, like it could disappear, and so would become amma, and another pharyngalized m, because we
Okay,
we
because
have
we're
it
going to
with
end
our,
up getting a pharyngalized m anyway.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And none of our fricatives other than the uvular have co-articulation, so, and all of those have the same co-articulations. In stops, we just need to decide if those aspirations would be there too. I'm assuming, yeah, the aspirations, we're just going to assume will be there like they were for number 3. Okay, okay.
That was a big question because if not, we were going to be distinguishing between aspirated and unaspirated voiceless stops. But this is just eliminating it and saying we're not going to worry about it. Voiceless stops are always aspirated.
If this merger, no, that's not going to matter. Never mind. All right, so first and foremost, we want to pinpoint where this is going to happen. It's only going to happen in compounds and in grammaticalization areas. Okay. Grammaticalization, of the two, grammaticalization is honestly the more important component because compounds, like you just learn the sound of it. And honestly, if you don't know what the component parts are, it doesn't matter because we forget in our own languages the historical connections between the words we used and the actual compound origins. Fine. The problem is, will it level too much when something is the object of a sentence or when something is possessor? Will it level too much if we make all the uvular sounds go velar? Because at this point they would have to if we say there's no uvular nasal.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they're all going to a velar nasal when assimilating, and then the uvular sounds will end up going to the velar counterparts. Or are we introducing this whole subset of voiced uvular stops and a uvular nasal? Part of me wants to level it all and say that's how languages do it. Things get leveled. And it's only in one case. Context would make it clear. Chances are you don't pull an object out of thin air for a sentence without it having context where you understand which word is being intended. How do you feel about that, David?
I don't feel very good about the reason for the merging, unless I guess it could be a late merge. So in other words, the uvularization, the uvulars are stable into the assimilation period, but then they just merge when nasal assimilation happens.
But you're right, though. Wait, like,
mutation.
wait. Like, if the uvulars are like sort of stable at this point, why wouldn't they just introduce a nasal uvular?
I don't know. I think they would.
And so in that case, it doesn't make sense to merge them.
Yeah.
Because it's no more problematic to say than it is except for me. Unga, unka, unka, unka. There we go. I had to like work back. It just seems like you would be preparing for whatever sound is next, and so it seems more natural that the nasal would end up just assimilating to that cue.
So then, let's add our aspiration in there, and then.
Well, and that's the thing, Jake. Now, if we're moving these to uvular nasals, they would necessarily affect the vowel quality.
Well, I think
if it happens after or before a certain point.
It was more relevant if there was going to be a merger, because then what Jake is pointing out is that if the merger happened after the lowering, then they would still be distinguished, at least in certain circumstances. So, for example, if you had
well, and that was something I was going to point out, but then realized that if they're already mergering, that means there's only a velar nasal, which means the vowel is never going to be in front of a uvular.
it depends on when, though. So, like,
because we made it uvular on any side affected the vowel. Is that how it was?
Yes, and so if it was a late merger, then you would actually have a difference. So like, just with these two examples here, like this would become that, and this would become that, and then assuming you had, I don't know, something like this, this would become that, but this one would become, oh right, so, let me do this completely accurately.
Okay.
So that was what Jake was pointing out, but I feel like I don't think that they should merge.
If we're talking about a point in time when the uvulars are kind of at a steady state, it doesn't make sense to my brain why suddenly it's like, oh, we're gonna like move nasals in these situations to kind of merge it with whatever's being pronounced next. Like, why wouldn't you just like get your tongue in position like you're used to doing for, this series of, we have 6 uvular sounds. So like you'd be used to getting your tongue in position, and suddenly it's like, no, air's coming out my nose. I can't get my tongue there anymore.
Yeah.
Like it just, that to me is what I'm struggling with it making sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we need to have that uvular nasal, and with this we need to also wrap up because we also need to get ready and stuff.
Yeah, and I will point out that we don't actually have to worry about a uvular nasal phoneme. It's never going to occur, because the only time that would be relevant is for these voiced stops, and we don't have a uvular voice stop in the proto. Yeah. So we'll never have a situation where there's a uvular nasal not before a non-nasal consonant. It will always be before a non-nasal consonant. Yeah.
Woo! All right. So we will probably end up voting, though, on vocalic mutation and pick up with nasal mutation options next stream. Is that?
Can we make one tiny little decision?
Okay.
L. Umla. Umla. Umla.
All right. So if we have and then can you say the velar L for me again?
La. Umla.
Well,
Ungla would be how it would assimilate ungla. Ungla.
Angla.
Ungla.
Angla.
Yeah, so umgla would eventually become ungla if we're saying it assimilates.
Okay.
And
Angla.
ungla could just become unga. Velar nasal geminate.
Okay.
What do you think?
Angla. Angra. Yeah, the R feels like it's like strengthening it a little too much. Angra. Angla. So I don't like the L to the R as much in that case. Angla. It feels like that L could easily be eaten up by the nasal.
L.
Angla.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
Good.
Little decision made.
All right.
Oh, Jake was voting a different way. They were voting for the change the nasal to an L.
Nah.
I just looked up to see that palatal fricative. I was like, oh baby, that's not a nasal. All right. Whew, introducing all sorts of little allophones there.
Yeah. And then, of course, and also, anything I missed?
Fricatives go to voiceless stops. Voiced fricatives will go to voiced stops. We already have all those. We're going to have those anyway. Voiceless stops going to voice stops. We're going to have that. So no, I think the only thing left is with our voice stops going to nasals, that means we'd have to also have any co-articulations with voice stops showing up on the new nasals we have. So a gua would become ngwa, and so on.
Right.
And so like those all need to be copied over.
There we
Voice
go.
stops going to nasal. Voiceless stops going to voice stops. They're just going to lose aspiration, and anything a voiceless stop does, a voice stop can do. We need to introduce a P.
Thank you. That's going to be...
Voiceless stop goes to voice. But just the P, because we don't have any co-articulations on our voiceless labial fricatives.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to worry about that. And
Good Lord.
yeah, we have just, again, these are going to be allophonic in most cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just expanded the crap out of this consonant chart.
We sure did.
Yay! Okay. We will come up with a poll for vocalic mutation. Also, yeah. Honestly though, Jonathan, if it shows up in green, that means it's not going to be in a protoform, and like that's the important thing to remember is like when you're creating protoforms, look for the black and red. Those are the sounds that we want to go for, and everything else will end up being written into sound changes and will just show up where it needs to show up. And again, Graham, we love you. The genius behind Lexergy.
Mm-hmm.
We love you.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Whew. All right. We need to go.
Should we tell them what we're doing?
Except.
Yeah.
Because that would never become that. No, it's just the uvular nasal, no co-articulation.
That's right.
because we're never going to have that. Okay, so never mind. I just needed to make sure we had those. We need to go because we have to go get dressed up and get fancy because we are going to the Shadow and Bone Season 2 premiere event.
Woo!
So we're going to get to see the premiere of the first episode of Season 2. Everyone else can watch it on Netflix starting next week on the 16th.
Yep, week from today.
And so, yay! So we got to go get fancy, get gussied up. For some reason, hoodies are not the thing to wear to such an event. So
unless you're crew.
Oh my gosh.
We are gonna see some gentlemen today wearing t-shirts and shorts.
That needs to be my life. Show up in hoodie and jeans. I'd at least put on jeans and my fancy Converse.
They will 100% be wearing shorts.
Mind you, I'm still
Doesn't
wearing.
matter how cold it is. Shorts.
I'm still wearing Converse, just like I dressed up last night and wore Converse. Tonight, I think I've already decided I'm not going to let my toes freeze. I'm going to wear Converse.
You know, wear your rainbow Converse?
I think so.
Ooh, yes.
Either my rainbow ones, or I think I still have my gray and pink ones. I've got to decide.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, with those actors, it's like there's a level where it's like, all right, here's your fancy shoe level, and then above that is sneakers.
I feel like.
And they're always like pristine and clean.
Mine are not, but they're well loved. All right. So anyway, thank you all for being here, and stay grammar. And until next time, bye.
Bye, everybody. Oh, I got it. Don't worry.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Bye.
Okay.